Namaste. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome. Welcome to my Saturday chat. And today I thought I would start with a reading for Pisces season and reflect on a message. And I've been contemplating which card to use as a significator, whether that be the moon or perhaps the Eight of Cups, as we are in the first decan of Pisces. And I think the Eight of Cups is a wonderful card that I flipped back and forth on this, because the Eight of Cups, and when I think of the energy of cups and water in Pisces season, and I was going down this little mini rabbit hole thinking, well, why do we need to focus on the 8, 9, and 10 of cups before spring? What is it about the movement of energy? What is it about this idea of release and honoring and celebrating this energy that helps us dive into a new astrological year, that helps us to begin something new? Now, we are fortunate to have so many new beginnings and places to start again. We just had the lunar new year, the second new moon, following winter solstice. There's all these wonderful opportunities for fresh starts, and I almost feel like the first decan of Pisces is something really special as well too. Energy, right? Energy in motion, E-motion. What if we just reflect on the movement of energy and how important that is? Hi, Sarah. And I was also thinking about this water as subterranean water, and how important it is to keep this energy below the surface moving. What does that mean to you? Eights help to cycle energy. Eights balance the issues of navigating this world. And I'm thinking here of Hod balancing Netzach. So there's lots of ways we can work with this energy. The previous decan was the Seven of Swords, and now we're in the decan of the Eight of Cups. And it's so interesting that both of these decans invite a movement, and now we are in the suit of water, and it's like this bringing together of heart and mind and coming together, with sort of a unified front individually. And also, remember that reading I did I think it was last Saturday, maybe it was a couple weeks ago, and that the Queen of Swords was rising up. I think it was last week, and the Queen of Swords was rising up out of the bottom of the cup. And her voice needs to be heard. It's this sense of declaring who I am and what I stand for, and this moving from Seven of Swords to Eight of Cups. It just feels like this beautiful place where we can marry our heart and our mind, and that is really important as we navigate Pisces season. Pisces, for those of you that have a lot of planets in Pisces, this energy can be really exhausting. It's a lot to work with this energy all the time. And so I've brought still working with the theme of collage decks on Saturdays for a while, another collage deck for the reading. This is a beautiful collage deck called Magical Nature Tarot. I just received the guidebook, so I did read a couple of pages. It does talk about the plants and the dyes, the ink that is used to color each of the cards. It's kind of lovely. So I'm going to use this, and I will use Eight of Cups as a significator. This is a reading for the collective in this first decan of Pisces on the 21st day of February 2026. And then I'm going to go in and do a full side-by-side commentary of the ritual and the Voyager Tarot. And I will pause when we get to the moon card and the decanic cards of where we are. I also want to acknowledge that the moon today, there's so many things to think about when I prepare for a reading, that the moon is in Aries. Okay, so the moon is in Aries for a few more hours. We'll be moving into Taurus later tonight. And so I don't know, that's a really important decan for me at the end of Aries. I think there's a lot to pick up on with that, plus everything else, we're working. The moon is waxing, so that's a good thing energetically. Moon is waxing, it is in Aries, and that really sort of balances the perhaps heaviness of where the sun is shining at this time. Excuse me, too big of a sip. So I hope that all of you are finding a way to create space, taking time for yourself during the challenges of the eclipse season. And these will all be presenting differently for each of you. But I think in doing these collective readings, there is something that we can work with together. Okay, so as always, this message is intended to be in the highest of frequencies for the greater good, and no harm be done. I think I will do the first part of the first operation and just build that process into where I find the Eight of Cups. Magical Nature Tarot. So during this time of quite a bit of tumultuous energy, where would I expect to find the Eight of Cups? Is this interesting when cards just fall and drop like that? Is this an energy where the Eight of Cups wants to run away and just leave everything behind? Or is Eight of Cups hesitating in moving? Is there a resistance to that? I'm just wondering where this Eight of Cups, where I would expect it to be. And I think this energy wants to be confronted. It wants to be seen. Perhaps it wants us to do something about it. So saying that, this is a very large pile here. This is the fire pile. Let's see if indeed it is here. Eight of Wands is here. Ten of Cups. Wow, lots of dynamite cards here. It is not here. Okay. Now, one of the things that I like to do in this procedure is acknowledge the relationship between the fire and the earth. And there is something about that is sort of an ongoing reflection for me. I don't want to get distracted here. I'm looking for the Eight of Cups. So the Eight of Cups is in the earth pile. It is in the pile of this material world, the challenges of all that we navigate here. Kind of practical. I feel that this energy brings in a sense of, okay, it is indeed, it's time to do something about this. And then on the bottom of the pile is a card of deep reflection, little priestess card this reflection of, or maybe a contrast between what the inner vision tells us and when I open my eyes, what my three-dimensional eyes tell me. So that lies underneath this pile of cards, perhaps inviting us to remember that there are different ways to perceive. We can perceive through a more meditative perspective, and we can perceive through the busyness of our open three-dimensional eyes. So there's something about this card, feels very important that it is here. I think too that being the first decan of Libra, this is indeed a card, right? It seeks, it wants balance, it wants harmony. This is a card that really reminds me of my mother in a way, always looking for peace. And the keyword for this card is peace in some of the Crowley and Crowley-inspired decks. The moon is here, so that's really significant that the moon is here as well, being the major arcana for Pisces, so I quite like that. Eight of Swords and Justice, Empress, Ace of Swords, Mentor of Pentacles, Two of Cups, Wheel of Fortune, Sun, Five of Swords, Apprentice. I know it was here. Okay, so let's perhaps build a 5 card with this. I don't really want to do a 9 card because I want to do a full walkthrough of those 2 decks. So I'm just gonna put these down and speak to what we've got here. Really interesting contrast between the Mentor of Wands and the Fool. And with the Fool in this particular position, it reminds me of that trust exercise. I'm sure that you've done it somewhere in your life. And trust in self, trust in universe. It feels really important. And the Fool is falling into the hot tub, if you will, the bathtub, with the Apprentice of Cups. And that would be the court card for Pisces season. Perhaps this suggests a new perspective on what my emotional body is saying to me. And that there is a sacred mission of sorts to really know what that means. And I think it's important to go back and to think about how what you are going through now and what perhaps you are contemplating leaving, and I have been talking about letting go and talking about leaving for some time, and how important that idea of release is during eclipse season, to allow these things to be stirred up, to be willing to allow this to be a time of great transformation. We need to be letting go of things. And to see that as a spiritual journey, perhaps choosing your meditation location in the water itself, and saying that this feels like, I kind of wish it was summer season so I could be doing this in the ocean herself. It's such a brilliant place to float and to be in that space, right? With that potential to let go. So I think trust is really important, to trust that this is indeed a sacred journey. What you are moving through, it's come up at just the right time, and yet please, please do some journaling about, okay, where have I seen this pattern before, and perhaps why wasn't I ready to let go of it last time, or 10 years ago, or 40 years ago. Okay, so, and these are the cards I'm speaking to over here. The card beyond it is the Five of Swords, and I included it here because this went up to the top of the deck, and I wanted to use that last card on the top of the deck. Top of the pile was the Four of Cups. And in this Five of Swords, it almost looks like there is an opening here as well too, that this challenge we are moving through, uniting heart, mind, heart. And so interesting for those of you that speak Japanese, know Japanese, you'll know that the word for heart is like mind and heart is one. Hi, Liz. So there's something here about this opportunity that we have early in Pisces season is one to find a uniting, a marriage between mind and heart. How important it is to bring that together. Okay, and don't forget that air is the element of the heart. So, opposite of the Fool, I was going to say is the Emperor, but it's not. It's the Mentor of Wands. Really strong, active energy. And I feel like this Mentor is kind of sitting back and giving you permission to take this action. It's kind of a protective energy. I feel like there may be someone around you, or even an aspect of yourself that says, you've got this, and I agree, I give you full permission, let's celebrate this, we can do this, like all kinds of positive feedback here. And the Mentor of Wands, while that's sort of like a Leo card, certainly feels deeply connected to this flow of energy through spring into the fire of Aries. The Suspended One connects to this water card here. So the way that the Suspended One, there's a lot. This is a really interesting card. It is primordial water in the Golden Dawn. It is Neptune, if we're adding the outer planets into the astrology of tarot. And so it is, for sure, it's connected to Pisces season. And you can, rather than seeing this as a card of sacrifice and martyrdom, think about this as deep, deep reflection. And I notice here that the Apprentice of Cups isn't going anywhere. They are reflecting before they act. And I think there's something here about that. Now, I'm also wondering, I'm kind of going a little bit of Marseille reflection here, in that maybe we need to let others see our weaknesses, our perceived weaknesses. Maybe we need to let others see our faults. Where is this coming from? Well, the Hanged Man in the Tarot de Marseille and some of the older decks was actually a card that showed up, and the outcasts, the thieves, the deformed people, they were hung outside either the wall of the city or further out beyond the city, and they were just left. There's a sense of isolation. I don't know, being okay with being different. There's a lot of layers here, and I think this card, being connected to the element of water, shows us just how important this journey of water is, and to really dive into this in this first decan of Pisces. When I think about the Eight of Cups, and the Eight of Cups being an 8, and the Sephira of Hod, and moving from Netzach to Hod, and also the previous decan would have been Netzach, air, right? And that would be also, a card connecting 7s and 8s, because air is, well, not necessarily, but it's Mercury. I'm sort of blabbing on here, but there's this idea that heart and mind, how we feel and what we say, must be aligned. And trusting that however we choose to respond to that which we are releasing at this time, it's part of something that has been brewing and causing us a lot of consternation for some time. When I look at these two cards on the outside of the reading, the Four of Cups and the Five of Swords, again, we have this water and air, this mind and heart story, working in lots of different ways. And 4 and 5. 4 and 5 is a really important, on the tree of life, that is the path of strength. And if you are reading Waite Smith, 8 would be connected to strength as well, too. I think Spirit wants us to go ahead. That this change is imminent. And that there's nothing wrong with taking a little bit of time for reflection. And that might be in the how part. How exactly am I going to let go of this? There's no rushing into this. What there is a trusting in the universe, a trusting in the spirit, trusting in spirit. So what is it? What is it you are acknowledging? Its time has come to a close. And isn't it interesting that 8 of Cups comes at the end of the astrological year, and it's this really important final show. If you think of the 10 of Cups as the final performance, or even the encore, we're getting to that place where we're reviewing. And I know you've been here before. And this is a really good combination of cards for saying yes. And to acknowledging the strength within, so that you can indeed go forward. Blessings to you all on your journey. Okay. Wow, what a beautiful group of cards. And I think, as I said earlier, that this card at the bottom of the pile really helps to solidify all that information. And you'll be interested to know that just above that was death, and then the moon. So this is a very watery time. So be brave. You've got this. All right, so here we are at 25 minutes already. The last couple of Saturdays, I have been talking about the Voyager and the Ritual Tarot, and I thought today I would just go through the whole deck. My intention here is, I want to have a collage deck over there in my stand? And if so, which one? Are these decks, what, I don't know, like, are these decks, do they do anything for me? I know the Voyager Tarot and the poetry of the extra guidebook is really important, but I want to just sort of, I don't know, give these decks another good look. Tara May is publishing a more extensive guidebook, and I believe that Kickstarter is closed. But of those of you that love this deck, and I hope that guidebook becomes available for us so we can see perhaps some of the backstory of more of her choices. When I'm looking at these cards, I find sometimes the busyness overwhelming. And part of my process is to choose one. And right here I see quite a contrast between the black statue rising up here and the doll face at the top of this one. And so interesting because this one has an embryo in the Fool. And I know that the Sun card, the Sun card, which is the card of life force energy, in this deck has an embryo at the top of the card. And sometimes these two cards, I wonder if there is an embryo in this Sun card. I don't think so. The energy of the Fool and the Sun are often compared. And the more you have studied your decks, the more you have worked with the tarot, the more that you can pick up on these sorts of things. The Magician. Isn't this lovely here? I love this shield that is here. This really grounds us in the buildings and the plants. Cosmic energy and earthly energy. We have a rainbow in both of these decks. And I feel like they're doing something quite similar with cosmic energy and grounded worldly energy, as above, so below. Acknowledging that, how important that is for the decisions that we make in these initial two cards. I'm still contemplating doing a Tree of Life class on the paths. And you may be aware that these two cards reflect each other, both moving from Keter. Different approaches to new beginnings. I like the blue in both of these cards. And while this looks like a helmet, the moon, it's the moon. It's a funny way the collage has been put together there. This is, I kind of like this double-headed sea serpent energy at the bottom, that the high priestess moves through the depths of the water. The high priestess is a card that um, certainly responds to Cancer energy, but we can use this lunar energy in with any of the water cards. Tiara May, the creator of the Ritual Tarot, she does talk about being inspired by the work of Lady Frida Harris as well as Pamela Coleman Smith. I'm going to talk more about this as we go through. The Voyager Tarot is one that is, I would say, deeply inspired by the Crowley Thoth Tarot, and yet does take its own spin with a lot of cards. Empress. Familiar iconography. It's kind of lovely how we have the water here, like in the right side of the Waite Smith deck, where we've got a waterfall here. The moon is behind. Now that's really interesting. Perhaps this is Venus above. Doesn't really look like a color of Venus though. And another thing that I want to, now why the unicorn? Now that's very interesting. Is to decide whether I can use these decks in Golden Dawn readings. You know, like, is there a Venusian energy here? Does this card contain everything that I need it to contain in order to respond to that? And I know that there will be no deck where every single card ticks off all the boxes. I really kind of like this card where there is a wise face behind a younger one. This jeweled box is really lovely. There's an opening, the sun. We see the sun behind. The martial energy certainly is shown here with the color red. We see all the symbols of Aries. We've got Aries and the eagle. I find this mask in this card kind of alarming. It looks so scary to me. There's something about it that is less than inviting. And I really appreciate this one. I like Hierophant cards that help me to find wisdom, connection, assistance in interpreting messages. I find that in the ritual guidebook, a lot of the interpretations of the cards are, you know, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth. I know that she does do a fairly good job of looking at different aspects of the card for sure. But in some of them, like in her writing of the Lover's card, it's a very one-sided perspective on what this card could mean. And yet more is shown through all of the parts of the collage, for sure. Now, while this is a very unusual image, this is more of what I want to speak to in terms of the Lover's card, and that this 6 as a perfect number, 6 as Tiferet, 6, and the Lover's card, as far as a path goes, move towards Tiferet as well. But this is a card in exploring all aspects of self. Tiara May writes quite a bit about the sexual energy of that card. This is the Chariot. And the journey of the Chariot, I certainly get the idea more of the cosmic journey of the Chariot. The potential for change with this one. Do we see the element of water? We've certainly got the crab up here representing Cancer. There may be a crab here. And I have to say that, I have worked with the Voyager Tarot much more than I have worked with the Ritual Tarot. So I may be biased, and yet I'm so very curious about this deck. Now, I think I put this, I know this is 11th Arcanum, but I changed the order because, just because I did. It feels like, in her guidebook, strength is in the 8th position. That's why I did that. Certainly you capture the innocence and maybe even the complexity of the figure on the left, fearless of the animal nature that is portrayed on the right. Allowing and Tiara May does include also a lust card in her deck, so you can choose which energy of strength you're going to work with. Allowing your inner strength to shine through. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Sarah. Yeah. And it's interesting because the 7 of Cups in this deck looks very similar to the Lust card. Yeah, I'll put that to the side so I can show you after. And when I look here, this column, it reminds me of an old Italian deck, a Minchiate deck, the way that strength, the virtue of strength is portrayed with the pillar, the column. And I am listening to you. I will plan and I will do a Minchiate series, okay? My direction will be on how to read with it. A bit of a study and always looking at that question. The Hermit. This is quite clever. And, if you are a bit of a neurology nerd, you just find the brain fascinating, the different parts of the brain, paths of the brain, and how that might connect to the energy of the Hermit. It's a kind of a cool card. I think it does reflect an idea of breaking something open to move within. I get a sense of that. I do love the folded hands in this card. It feels very calm in that nature. There's certainly a journey deep within that I see here as well. I should go a little faster, but I want to not miss something. Fortune. So again, we have a hand turning the wheel. And there's something here about the black and white in the background and the wheel being colored itself. It looks like a wheel that could not be turned, that it would require a great deal of strength to turn the wheel. Is there any aspect of Jupiter in either of these cards? Perhaps with the gold and the grandiosity, for sure here. This may be Jupiter behind the statue we see in the center. We have a hand here as well. Hands are so interesting in the tarot. Hands being connected to the heart. I always like to have a look at whether it's a right or a left hand and how that may respond to a question. And this is the card of balance. And in this deck, they're not numbered. I don't know in the version of the deck that has titles on it whether they are numbered. I haven't actually seen that one. This looks to me a lot like a Crowley-inspired card. This notion of balance, and indeed that we can do something about it. The Ritual Tarot card is quite gruesome, actually, to me. I don't know why she would choose this story of Judith and Holofernes to depict justice. Perhaps it's a strong feminine energy, the feminine, divine feminine, seeking justice. Justice is often a woman. And I think in a card for me, it's important to be able to speak to adjustment. And certainly she is taking action to adjust her life and that of the community around her, of her town. And it is, it's not a small part of the card, it's center front in the card. Perhaps we could connect what's going on here and this part of the collage with the diamond. And the diamond signifying and perhaps responding to strength as well too, What I was going to say, it's a bit like what? It's a bit like the pearl, that we've been through a lot. There's been a lot of pressure to create your story. You stand upon something that is very, very old. Yeah, Sarah says it's very Queen of Swords from the Thoth. All right, let's go on. So then we have the Hanged One. This one feels very Neptunian. And like I said in the reading, I think this is a card you really want to sit with. If you work with the energy of the two and connect it to the priestess, or you want to add the two numbers together and bring in an Empress energy, or connect this to the 21 of the World card. I don't know, this card to me carries a lot of potential connections, and it's a really great card to come up in a reading. Contemplating the journey, what death means, and this really feels. It's funny that we're in Pisces season now, and I look at the moon card in the Marseille Tarot, in the Waite-Smith Tarot, and it feels so deeply connected to the Scorpio journey and the rising and the willingness to move on, and makes a lot of sense in terms of the Eight of Cups, that we've certainly processed something, and there is a disintegration that we are willing to face. And I kind of love, I see this mask, the disintegration of the mask in this particular card. And I think that is a beautiful metaphor. And then we have art or temperance. And we find a bit of a curiosity in how we're going to navigate the elements that are around us to continue to explore a peace that we seek, a wholeness, a oneness. Another virtue card. Interesting, all of the rainbows that we see in the Voyager tarot. And the rainbow, of course, is an important symbol in this card, if you've studied the Crowley deck. And we do have a hint of that idea of the rainbow as well in the Waite-Smith deck, with the irises on the, I believe they're on the right front side. Devil's play and the devil. This certainly would connect to the Lust card and the Seven of Cups. It's almost like we have a cloaked figure and an uncloaked figure. That's kind of a cool thing to work with. Cloaked and uncloaked, masked and unmasked. I really feel like this card wants us to get more comfortable with our unmaskedness. To not suppress it, to know what it is. Maybe it's something we're moving through or something that needs to come to the forefront. I like both of these devil cards. The Tower. Looks more like the sun than Mars. And maybe the disintegration of the mask in the devil card. You know, it's kind of connected here to the breaking down of the status quo so that we can go on, go forward. And then we find ourselves in a place of solitude and peace, very peaceful, clipping at the back here. I find it so interesting how the Kuan Yin statue was included in this card, and maybe that's kind of beautiful, you know, like the star being a place of self-compassion, cultivating the qualities of compassion. Moon, lovely collages in both decks. Are you ready to release the dove? We see solo figures. We see two moving together. And sun. We get a hint of this idea of love. Maybe here as well too. Bringing in historical connections. Life force energy, life in general, the cycles of life. It's such a brilliant card to work with in a more global way. And then we are asked, are you ready? Are you ready to let the cloak fall and to move through? It's one thing to awaken the third eye. It's another thing to truly look, to truly to be in that energy. To be brave enough to, we can't always be in that frequency. It's very difficult to navigate life. However, I think we become more transparent, or this card invites more transparency between the challenges of the material world and a higher consciousness. Such a beautiful... I like both of these cards very much. There's a beauty and a humility to this final step. And I think there's a lot of contemplation and remembering, and that is important when this card comes up in a reading. And I think both of these cards do a great job in that regard. All right, so Wands, Cups, Swords, and Pentacles. When I look at the card on the right, I think about just taking that walking stick and let's go forth. And when I look at the card on the left, I think about the magic of the suit of fire and the energy of fire. And you can see that these cards all have keywords on them. Some of them match the energy of the Crowley Thoth Tarot, and others do not. Two of Wands, Skylight. It's an opening here. I do get the sense of an Aries card for sure in this one. This one feels very, very blue, not so Aries or martial. Three of Wands, Compassion. This is a solar decan in Aries. So there's definitely a sense of optimism. And we have three hands here rather than three wands. Different fingers are active. It's kind of cool. I find in the Four of Wands, there's something that's coming together. It's one of those cards where in early phases we've brought some aspects of self together, and it creates kind of a nice first floor from which to move. I think the fifth wand is in the sand here. So this is 5 of wands. Lots to look at and reflect on here. You know, and there's a sense of, well, what do I need to release in order to go through? Now, really interesting, because the keyword oppression is, I believe, the one for the 10 of wands in the Crawley-Thoth Tarot. Both of these decks have the water in the background that we see in Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork. So there's this invitation, this movement of energy that's being suggested. And we have this contrast between fire in the foreground and water in the background, among a lot of other things in this collage. 6 of wands. Sort of the first arrival at the center, being the first suit. Fire meets air. They are friendly and powerful. So there is a sense of peace with this card, for sure. 7 of wands. Courage. And again, you know, mask cards are so filled with wonderful questions. Do I don this mask to find my courage? Is it necessary? Because then I can allow something which is difficult to share without it. I think I believe this is Hercules and the Nemean lion, so I think that's a good choice for this one. 8 of wands. We have music here. We have a violin, lots of musical symbols. So remember, this is a mercurial decan. This is Sagittarius, the beginning of Sagittarius, mutable fire, temperance. There's so much more here than just swiftness. I think it's really important to think about all of the qualities of air and the aspects of Mercury. You know, when I think of this keyword harmony, I think of different energies working together successfully. Integrity, 9 of wands, an important card of reflection. It almost looks like the crown of the Tower of Babel. Interesting correspondences between these two cards. I have journeyed far and I have journeyed wide, and to me it looks like this statue is rising through the water, through the depths of the water, and it's kind of an interesting energy to work with. 10 of wands. So here growth instead of oppression. And I think that's really an interesting way to look at this card. We see these 10 wands kind of like in the shield formation. Always a question of how do I carry through to the end here? And I feel like that shield just helps us to slow down a little bit, to make sure we're doing things for the right reasons. 10 of Wands in terms of growth. I kind of like that aspect here, journeying through the suit of Dharma. Child of Wands, Page of Wands. Seems like quite a mature statue here, almost looks a hint of pregnancy in the statue. Curiosity. I don't know. I'm not so sure about this card here. Knight or Man of Wands. You know, you do get a sense of acting in both of these cards. I'm thinking of kabuki and different, different decks are going to bring up different energy. Knights. So I want to ask myself about my purpose in all of the Knight cards. Where am I going and how am I going and why am I going and what is my approach? And both of these cards kind of challenge me in a uncomfortable way. There's a great deal of strength in both of these cards. Aries, Queen of Wands, powerful energy that takes us from Pisces into Aries. I think a great cardinal energy, and then the King Sage of Wands. And Seer certainly connects to the energy of the hand that we saw in the first card, right? So the idea of the suit of fire being one of spiritual energy connected to our path and our work, our great work. I think this is also a great King of Wands. Certainly could read this as a card of Leo. Ace of Cups. I'm curious. Do you read with these decks? I mentioned last time that with either of these decks, 3-card pull feels like enough. There's so much going on, and I feel like the readings that I want to do with these decks are slow. Very interesting keyword. And I feel like this responds very much to truly feeling life, allowing the movement and the sensual nature of life with using all of the senses to be a part of my fulfillment. Six 6 flowers, 6 yellow flowers in the Two of Cups. Feels like harmony. I'm glad that she's got the moon here. Water. Certainly feel the energy of Cancer in both of these cards. 3 of Cups. And love is the key word on this card. I find Golden Dawn-wise, this is a really difficult card to work with. 3 of Cups. Decan is Mercury. But for me, this is a card of, what's the expression? I was going to say catch and release. Not so much that, but honor and release. Fulfill. Honoring the fulfillment and letting go. It's my full moon card. I don't mean my natal chart full moon, but I really feel the beauty of both the honoring and the letting go in the 3 of Cups. Anger. It's a difficult card for me. I wouldn't put that energy there. It is a lunar decan, so why all the red in a lunar decan? It's an important card of separation and contemplation. Hello, Chaim. Welcome. Five of Cups. Really interesting how the water appears to be so stagnant in the background. Very tumultuous look in the card on the left. So interesting, the energy of sorrow in the 6 of Cups. It's a bit of peace. I'm not doing readings now, Chai, I'm sorry. It's a bit of peace in the middle of Scorpio season. But I think that keyword invites us to allow the challenges of emotion, the beauty of the challenges of the emotion to be a part of the middle of the water journey. And I was mentioning how I thought this card very much connected to the Devil card. Fear. I feel in the 7 of Cups, we are so distracted. It feels a bit like being at a tennis match where there is also higher end concessions and celebrities and all kinds of things to distract us. We forgot why we came to the tennis match in the first place, which was to watch the game. Maybe, I don't know. I work with clients who have a lot of challenging issues arising, and this card is an important one not to gloss over. Eight of Cups. And perhaps, what Arthur Waite did was to pick up on this idea of stagnation. So it is because of the stagnation that we see the response that we do in the Waite-Smith Tarot. And certainly Tara May has picked up on multiple qualities of the Nine of Cups. If we look at Jupiter as the ruler of Pisces, Jupiter as the ruler of Pisces, is that right? Jupiter is this decan Pisces. Is that right? I think it is Jupiter. So, and this central decan is Jupiter. So it's a very extravagant decan, and one where there, I believe, is tremendous potential for greatness. We just need to be careful how we use that greatness. With greatness comes great responsibility. 10 of Cups. I like the hint of martial energy here. There's a great deal of beauty. Passion certainly picks up on positive qualities of the martial energy. I like the gold and the silver. All of the zodiac appears to be here, or at least half of it anyway, instead of all the colors of the rainbow. Let's really enjoy, the energy of the 10 of Cups. And I don't know if I can use this card as a child of cups, as a page of cups. It is, I've seen this before, and it is certainly something that is I sat for days and days watching women carry water from the river up from the river up the bank to their homes every morning. I've seen this, and I don't know if I could ever read a Child of Cups into this card. It's a lot of weight. It's a lot of weight on the head here. A lot of balance, responsibility. There are wings here. There are wings here. There looks like a great deal of sadness in the face. Now, this is kind of cool, both of these, as a Knight of Cups. Again, the sacred journey through water. What is your Holy Grail? What is it that would truly, truly make you happy? I can certainly work with either of these cards. Really, so something very interesting here with the gold on the kneecaps. It makes me think of the Saturnian connection to the knees, which then makes me think of Binah. Which has, no connection really to Cancer. And both of these deck creators connect these cards to Golden Dawn astrology, for sure. I do like this one very much. And with this one, you get more of the sage energy. Okay, so that is 2 of the 4 suits. And I am going to finish this. So here we go. Swords and Pentacles. Both of these deck creators chose, or I guess chose is the right word, created quite an interesting collage here of an Ace of Swords that, you know, this is about making a difference, blasting something open. And I kind of like the degree of intensity to these Aces of Swords. Keyword, brilliance. 2 of Swords. I don't know, something a little lackluster in this card. Equanimity is the key word. It's a brilliant word. 3 of Swords. Creativity. When I saw this card, I'm thinking, okay, why did we choose a statue that cuts open the liver? And you'll know that that is important mythologically, but I can certainly work with that as a healer and looking at the different layers of implications with working with the liver and what the liver represents. But 3 of Swords, 3 is its growth, its expansion. It is creativity. It's an opportunity to expand through the challenges of the 3 of Swords. Sometimes I find the 3 of Swords hits us all too quickly. Oh my goodness, you know, I was sitting with these cards earlier, and I think that I would really like this card to come up in a reading. I do like working with the 3 of Swords. Again, like 7 of Cups, challenging cards help us to move through things that perhaps we aren't able to see in other ways. Tarot readings are such a great way to work through our stuff. 4 of Crystals and 4 of Swords. 4s as sacred space, 4s as foundation. Logic is the key word here. Sort of an unemotional response. And I get that, you know, a place of meditation is a place to be quiet and to still the emotions, for sure. 5 of Swords. Piercing through the truth, piercing through. Interesting how one eye is cut open. This reminds me of cards with silver and gold coins on the eyes, or different energy like that. 5s really do help to stir things up so we can move through. And if you think about 5, the element of air, so this is Gebera, this is Mars as a number. This is I think 5 of Cups is one of the most challenging cards in the tarot because it is hit 3 times by Mars. 5 of Swords also, it's after the optimism of the 2 and the 3 and the 4 of Pentacles, we get hit by the 5 of Swords. And I really think this helps us to rethink things through. So can work with either of these cards. It's all good. 6 of Crystals. It's interesting in this deck, a couple of the sixes have been given really challenging keywords. And I think in the Six of Swords there is confusion in the movement forward. We're not entirely clear what we have walked through from the Five of Swords, but we know there isn't really any choice. But don't forget, sixes are Tiferet, sixes are the heart, sixes are peace. Six is a perfect number, and with all sixes, there are a lot of different ways to work with the energy, or something that's speaking to you in the collage. Things are going to unfold whether we do anything or not. And rather than micromanaging, I think in the Suit of Swords here, remember this can also respond to our education. Seven as Venus. Maybe there's this idea that we could also work with some of the compassion of Venus, the caring of Venus. Another very complex decan with seven as Venus and Seven of Swords. I talked about this because this is the precursor to the Eight of Cups. And so interesting having the keyword of dullness here. This is the last decan of Aquarius. In a way, this looks like a Seven of Wands. And when I look at some of the things going on here, I feel Seven of Pentacles energy. But I think we must respond here. Eight of Crystals. So 8, 9, and 10 of Swords. We're in the energy of Gemini. It gets really, really noisy, and we need to learn how to find the space between the noise. These are really important cards of the yogic precept of learning to still the mind in order to find the harmony and to reestablish balance. I think both of these are great Eight of Swords cards. What is it that is making us feel so confined, so narrow? And perhaps through the delusion, we find ourselves in a place of complete and utter surrender and a willingness to, once again, let things go. Child of Swords. I kind of like the finger up to the mouth, Let's be quiet and listen to our minds. This is a great Knight of Swords. I really like this Queen of Swords. Bit of an androgynous figure here, don't you think? And last few weeks I've talked about these cards. I think they're They're both kind of brilliant kings of swords. And the final suit of pentacles, coins, discs. A wonderful place we find ourselves in after learning the lessons of the previous three suits. We find this gift in the ace. And it's almost like this coin has risen through a crack in the earth Two of Worlds. Great. Both of these cards are doing a good job with the idea of change and reflection. Three of Worlds. Three of Coins. More so than nurturing, I feel like reciprocity is a great keyword here. There's your Capricorn goat. Sun rising. I did speak to this card quite a bit last week, so you can go back and review last week's discussion. Yeah, it's fours are such interesting numbers because they have the illumination of Jupiter from has said the potential for great beauty and sacredness and expansion, and yet there's a safety and a foundation that I also feel in the fours. And yet we know that from here we must expand into the chaos of the fives. Something must be left behind. I think I could work with the keyword reciprocity through the whole suit, through this whole suit. It's such an important quality to play with and to understand. I think maybe that is one of the greatest goals of the suit of Pentacles. Seven of Coins. Final Decan of Taurus. It's a really unusual perception of this card. Eight of Coins. I like how both deck creators have this, they connect this card to movement, to shifting of energy. There's a great insight here in this, potentially in this card. Great balance and understanding and realization, and I think both of these are done really well. I think what I want to do is do a quick shuffle of each of these decks and pull one card from each of these decks, asking what is the greatest lesson here. I don't know why I'm missing some cards. Oh, it's because they're over here. Nine of Worlds. Such a beautiful card. We find ourselves in a place of I really think appreciating. That's one of the highest qualities of this card, is appreciating the beauty of all that surrounds us. And that I think in its highest frequency, this card acknowledges that we have understood the lesson of reciprocity. And Ten of Worlds again. Now, though we have found a great deal of success, it is indeed a turning of the wheel. Child of Discs. I struggle with the pages in this deck. Knight of Discs. Really, I think this is a wonderful card with all kinds of different ways to perceive the Man of Worlds. Queen of Pentacles. And King. I do like the Kings very much in the Ritual Tarot. Okay. So this is going to be a really brief shuffle, not a great shuffle. I'm just holding each of these decks, doing a quick shuffle, and asking Spirit to select a card that perhaps encapsulates the most important energy of this deck. And maybe even sharing a reason that, what is the gift of this deck? What is its greatest strength? I know this has been a long one, but I really wanted to do this, and thank you if you're still here, or if you've watched this in chunks. Okay, so I'm just going to cut and turn over a card. Interesting that we have feminine energy and masculine energy. Empress, Knight of Pentacles. Maybe this is saying that the Ritual Tarot has the potential to guide us through something quite mystical and magical, sacred journeys, to help with the challenges of this world. The Empress feels very protective here. So let these cards reflect an energy that these decks want to reveal at this time, and perhaps their strongest energy. And thanks for watching, and I look forward to any feedback that you have in working with either of these collage decks. Have a lovely rest of your day. Take good care. Namaste.